was very close to predicting this final score correctly between New England and Houston, the game that just concluded up in Foxborough. I said it would be 34-28 New England. I felt that Houston would probably be able to get a better pass rush than they did in the last game. I felt that, the Patriots defense, again, if you can't get turnovers, they really can't stop people. I was a little wrong about that, but I'll break that down in a minute. But I was close. The Patriots scored an extra touchdown on what I thought they would score, but that game was definitely closer than what we saw in Week 14. And I attribute that pretty much exclusively to the fact that Houston was motivated in this game. I think, they knew that they had to play better, and I think that really, kind of made them up their game subconsciously, and that's why it was so close. I mean, the game was 17-13 at halftime. I mean, in the second half, New England outscored them 24-15, but, it was a close game for a while. But a couple of turnovers and the fact that, I think Schaub is a little overrated, I think dealt the Patriots eventually a winning hand. But I want to get back on the defensive thing, because you look at the fact Houston had 14 drives. And I know they netted 425 yards of offense, but they're only averaging 5.7 per play, which, compared to their season total, surprisingly actually is up. But if you compare it to what they did in the game in New England, it was well up from what they did against New England in the first game. Because New England, I've always said that the last few years, their defense, if they can't get turnovers, they can't force fumbles, they can't stop teams on offense. Houston's about as good of an offense that's left in the tournament to win the Super Bowl. And, well, I don't know if you want to compare it to Atlanta, but New England did a pretty damn good job of shutting them down. And I think it all starts at the top with the quarterback. I mean, Matt Schaub, if you look at his numbers, you don't think he had a bad game. 34-51 for 343 yards, 2 touchdowns, a pick, and only got sacked once in a passer rating of 90. But if you look at what his compatriot did on the other side, Tom Brady, his passer rating was 25 points higher. He threw 3 touchdowns, no picks, for 344 yards. Matt Schaub in this game proved to me that he is just a run-of-the-mill pocket passer with a really good team around him. I wasn't quite prepared to say that about him, the way I said it about Alex Smith. But, and I'm not saying to switch him for their backup TJ Yates, the guy who won the playoff game against the Bengals last year. No. That would just be a hell of a mistake. But with Matt Schaub, I don't think he's very accurate. He throws for a lot of yards because they throw a lot of passes. Not because he gets a lot of yards per completion or anything. But if you just look at the receiving core he has, Andre Johnson, Owen Daniels, Kevin Walter, Arian Foster out of the backfield, they've got talent on the offensive side of the football. Why they're not putting up more points, it's simple. Because Schaub is not a quarterback that can win you a Super Bowl. I will say that I'm going to probably be prepared to eat my words about Flacco when I do my Ravens-Patriots preview coming up in a few days. But Schaub is not in the same class as them. He is still a notch below them. He can get you a playoff victory. But if he has to go on the road, regardless of the circumstance, his performance is significantly going to his performance is going to plummet. And you think, oh, he did great. No, he didn't. Missed a lot of wide open throws, fumbled, isn't very good with the play calling. He's just not a quarterback that can win you those big games. His compatriot on the other side, Tom Brady, 3 rings and 5 appearances. I think he proved himself worthy. I mean, look at what they did without Rob Gronkowski playing pretty much the whole game. Gronk got injured midway through the first quarter, didn't have a catch, but you just saw how much that offense just continued to surge even without Gronkowski in there. Welker had 131 yards on 8 catches. Hernandez at 85 on 6. Shane Vereen, their running back, 83 yards on 5 catches. I mean, this Patriots offense and the running game, 122 yards against one of the top 10 rush defenses in the league. A team that does not give up many plays in the run game. Patriots had two runs of longer than 20 yards. It's pretty damn good against the Houston Texans because they don't usually allow much running game to pretty much anybody. They don't allow a run game to really flourish against them. The pass game, you're going to get their looks, but not really much in the run. But Brady played another great performance. 25 of 40, 344, 3 touchdowns, no picks, rating of 115. I have to say right now that this AFC Championship game is more compelling than it was last year. A, because of Ray Lewis's retirement. But B, the Patriots' defense, their offense is playing a lot better than last year. But their defense is too. I mean, Schaub only got sacked 9 times. And only got hit 3 times. But the Houston Texans only committed 1 turnover. And the Texans had 14 drives. Considering how many times they scored, you do the math. They forced Houston into 5 punts. Now, Houston is a damn good offensive team, one of the best offenses in the league when they're running on all cylinders. 5 punts out of the Texans, if you're defense, you got to be happy about that. I mean, the running game, again with Houston, was not really there in this game. New England shut that down and pretty much shut down the whole Houston offense. I know in the final quarter Houston came to life, but those are really, bullshit yards, as I call them, bullshit points, because the game was already well out of hand. It was 38 to 13 at that point, so it really doesn't make a difference how many yards you get. The game is pretty much over. But early on in the game with the kick return by Daniel Manning, Houston got off to a good start. I think if they could have punched that in for a touchdown instead of a Shane Graham field goal, they might have rattled the Patriots just enough. And then they had the other drive that stalled before Shane Vereen got their touchdown. So that could have potentially been 14-0 Houston, and then the game gets a little more interesting to see if New England can come back. But pretty much for the rest of the game, New England just dominated. I mean, they showed why they won 13 games and were for a while, and have been for a long time, the best team in the AFC. I mean, I know Pittsburgh and Indianapolis have gotten to multiple Super Bowls and won titles since the start of the 2000s, but for my money, no team's been better and more consistent than New England. Since 2000, the Patriots have missed the playoffs, counting 2000, 2002, and 2008, 3 times. The Colts missed it in 2011. They missed the playoffs in 2001. So they've had fewer misses on the playoffs, but look who's done better. The Patriots have 3 rings and 5 AFC Championship game wins. I mean, look at the difference in the 2 teams. The Patriots have been the most successful team since Belichick was hired in 2000. They've been a consistent team for a long time, and it shows, because eventually they will find a way to beat you. And whether they win by 1 point, whether they win by 21, it doesn't matter. The Patriots are right now playing like the best team in the NFL. Now, the Ravens matchup is going to be very interesting to see how they combat that, but regardless, their offense, this year, 557 points they scored, the 3rd highest total in league history, for a grand total of 34.8 per game. Houston's one of the best defenses in the league in terms of scoring. They only allow a little over 20 points a game. New England put up 41 on them. There you go. They just are going to find a weakness in your scheme and they're going to exploit it. And that's what happened today. I mean, when the pass rush wasn't there, Brady just dumped it off to his ends and his receivers for 7-8 yard gains all the time. And then after yards after catch, they maybe get 5 or 6 more. And that's how they would move the football. That's what they've been doing the past 4 or 5 years. I mean, 2007, 2010, 2011, 2012, this offense topped 500 points. That's sick. Again, it showed in this game because Houston didn't mind any kind of comeback until the end of the fourth quarter when the game was already out of hand, because their defense may be good, but they just don't match up well. Not as many teams match up well against New England. Baltimore does because they scheme a little bit differently, but I'll be there to break that down in a few days. But for this game, I thought going away from it, what Houston needs to do is this. Find a quarterback for the future to mold. I don't know if it's going to be TJ Yates or what are you going to do. You need to find a quarterback that in maybe 2 years can be your guy. Because I'm sorry, Matt Schaub is not going to get you to the Super Bowl. Any free agents, get him back. Brian Cushing will be healthy next year, which is a huge plus for the defense. Maybe draft a defensive back to kind of make that secondary a little bit deeper. And maybe get an extra receiver. That's all that you really need to do, because this team going forward is playing unbelievable. And I see them being a contender in the AFC for a long time. They just got to get a couple of things straightened out. And New England, off to host Baltimore next week in the championship game. I'll be there to break that down in a few days. Hope y'all enjoy that, and I hope y'all enjoyed this too.